Hong Kong hears from jailed media tycoon Jimmy Lai for the first time in 4 years at his trial. Jimmy Lai, Apple Daily founder, arrives at the Court of Final Appeal in Hong Kong ahead of the Board hearing on February 9, 2021. Hong Kong CNN, Jimmy Lai, the pugnacious Hong Kong media tycoon who's now shuttled tabloid Apple Daily was the regular thorn on Beijing's side, took the stand Wednesday in his own defense for the first time in high-stakes national security trial that could send him to prison for life. The 77-year-old, known for his decades-long support of the city's pro-democracy movement and outspoken criticism of China's leaders, hasn't been here from since he was arrested nearly 4 years ago amid a deepening crackdown on dissent. Dressed in a green cardigan and a brown blazer, a visibly thinner Lai smiled and waved at a public gallery packed with supporters as he entered the courtroom flanked by officers. His wife and daughter were seated next to Cardinal Joseph Jan, an outspoken former bishop of Hong Kong and a friend of Lai's. He faced 2 counts of colliding colluding with foreign forces, a crime under a sweeping national security law introduced in 2020 that has transformed Hong Kong, as well as the separate sedition charge. He has pleaded not guilty to all charges and faced a maximum sentence of life in prison if convicted. In his defense, Lai stressed that he had always opposed violence during the anti-government protest of 2019 and called it the idea of advocating for Hong Kong and Taiwan independences as crazy. Both issues are deemed anathema by Beijing and seen as red lines. The tycoon called the allegations of him lobbying for independence a conspiracy to trap him, adding that I never allow any of our staffs or our newspaper to mention this. He said he never hired anyone at Apple Daily who advocated the idea. In U.S. courtrooms, defense lawyers often advise their clients against testifying in court. But in Hong Kong, court testimony offers the rare chance for detained democracy figures to have their voices heard in a system where national security charges have resulted in months and years of pre-trial detention as well as restrictions on speaking out. On Tuesday, more than 20 of Hong Kong's best-known pro-democracy figures were sentenced to prison terms of up to 10 years on subversion charges at a separate national security trial. Among them was Joshua Wong, a former student leader and poster child of the city's once thriving pro-democracy movement, who shouted, "I love Hong Kong," before he left the dock. Lai's testimony comes just weeks after Donald Trump, who has previously vowed to free the media tycoon, won the White House and has announced the proposed cabinet stacked with multiple China hawks. Lai said on the stand he had never spoken with Trump, though he knew two people who had unofficial access to the first Trump administration. I don't think he knew me. I think his eyes knew me and briefed him about me, said the former businessman. In later testimony, Lai subsequently named the two people as Jack King, a retired U.S. Army general, and the former Deputy Defense Secretary Paul Horpich. Britain has also called for the release of Lai, who has the British passport. On Monday, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer raised the issue with Chinese leader Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the G20 summit in Brazil. We're concerned about reports of Jimmy Lai's deterioration, Starmer told Xi Jinping in their first meeting. A heavy police presence is seen outside the West Kowloon Law Court building ahead of the national security trial against the pro-democracy media tycoon Jimmy Lai in Hong Kong, China on November 20, 2024. High-profile trial. Jimmy Lai has been in jail since December 2020, awaiting trial on multiple charges linked to his support for Hong Kong's democracy protest movement through his media visits. He was the founder of Apple Daily, a pro-democracy anti-Beijing newspaper that was forced to shut down in 2021. The trial, which began in December 2023, is the most high-profile prosecution of the Hong Kong media figure since the city was handed over from British to Chinese control in 1997. It is resuming following the lengthy pause after Lai's attorney's unsuccessful attempt to have the charges dismissed. Around 100 people waited in line under cold rain on Wednesday morning ahead of the trial testimony, with some expressing support for the media tycoon. Chu Mei-ying, a woman in her 70s, said she got to court at 4 a.m. this morning. Jimmy Lai represents the spirit of Hong Kong. She told CNN, after closure of Apple Daily, there is no real news to read. On Wednesday, Jimmy Lai began his defense by laying out what he called the core values of the Apple Daily, which he said included the rule of law and the pursuit of democracy and personal freedoms. He also recounted how he built his media empire in the aftermath of Beijing's bloody crackdown on the pro-democracy Tiananmen Square protest in 1989. As the businessman who had made a bit of money, he wanted to be involved in the distributing information to the public, he said. The more information you have, the more you are in the know. The more you are free, he told the court. Prosecutors allege that articles published by Apple Daily violated Hong Kong's national security law by calling for overseas sanctions against the city's leaders following the imposition of the national security law in 2020. Chinese and Hong Kong officials say the law enacted in the wake of the anti-government protest in 2019 has restored stability and closed loopholes that allows the foreign forces to undermine China. But critics say it has decimated Hong Kong's freedoms and altered the city's legal landscape. Like all national security trials in Hong Kong, Jimmy Lai's trials does not have the jury and is presided over by 3 judges picked from the National Security Committee that is approved by Hong Kong's leader. On Apple Daily, journalists host printed copies of the newspaper's last edition outside their office in Hong Kong only in June 24, 2021. Overseas lobbying. Jimmy Lai, a businessman who made a fortune selling clothing before becoming a publisher, has long been unapologetic thorn in Beijing's side, openly using Apple Daily as the vehicle to criticize the Chinese leaders since its founding in 1995. A devout Catholic and a non-vocal supporter of Trump, Jimmy Lai had lobbied extensively overseas for foreign government to apply pressure on China over Hong Kong, something that infuriated leaders in Beijing. At the height of the protest in 2019, Jimmy Lai traveled to Washington, where he met with then Vice President Mike Pence and other U.S. politicians to discuss the political situation in Hong Kong. On Wednesday, Jimmy Lai said on the stand he had told Mike Pence to voice out in support of Hong Kong without asking for specific actions. I would not dare to ask the vice president to do anything, he said. Jimmy Lai had long held the conviction that Donald Trump and the U.S. government should not shy away from supporting Hong Kong's civil liberties, which are key for the city's status as the conduit between China and the international market. Mr. President, you are the only one who can save us, Jimmy Lai said in an interview with CNN in 2020, weeks before he was arrested. If you save us, you can stop China's aggressions. You can also save the world. Prosecutors have argued that Jimmy Lai's actions and his newspaper's publishing amounted to lobbying for sanctions against Beijing and Hong Kong, something that is prohibited by the national security law. His lawyers have counted that Jimmy Lai stopped doing so after the national security law came into effect in June 30, 2020. During Donald Trump's first term as president, the U.S. government ended Hong Kong's special trade status and signed into law an act that authorized sanctions on the city's officials over China's crackdown in Hong Kong. The police carried evidence they seized from the headquarters of Apple Daily on June 17, 2021. Hong Kong's current leader, John Lee, the city's security chief during the landmark 2019 protest, is among those on the U.S. sanctions list, which also includes the city's former leader and current chief justice. At a news conference earlier this month, John Lee did not directly answer questions about how he would deal with Donald Trump's return to the presidency. He said there should be respect for the non-interference with the local affairs, internal affairs of the city, and said Hong Kong values the rule of law. We desire mutual respect with all countries, including the U.S., because trade is beneficial for both sides, John Lee said. Last month, conservative podcast host Howitt asked Donald Trump whether he can speak with Xi Jinping and pre-lie if he is re-elected. Donald Trump replied 100%, I will get him out, and said it would be so easy to free the detained media tycoon without providing further details. But Chinese and Hong Kong leaders have long bristled at any criticism leveled by Western government at the national security crackdown in Hong Kong and have repeatedly condemned Jimmy Lai in statement issued both before and throughout his trial. Jimmy Lai is the main planner and participant of the anti-China chaos in Hong Kong and is an agent and pawn of the anti-China forces, a spokesperson for China's foreign ministry said on Wednesday.